All right, let's dive right in. Today we're tackling a topic that's sure to spark some fun conversations. NFL team names.
It's one of those things you see all the time, but you never really think about where they came from.
Exactly. And trust me, some of these origin stories are wild. We've got a great YouTube video breaking down all 32 teams.
I'm ready to be surprised.
Me too. And listeners, see if you can guess any of these before we reveal them. Ready?
Bring it on.
Okay, first up, the Arizona Cardinals. You'd think with a name like that, it's got to be connected to, well, Cardinals in Arizona.
Right, like the bird.
Yeah,
Well,
but the truth is way more thrifty, I guess you could say.
oh, really? How so?
So picture this. Chicago, 1901. The team owner needs jerseys, and what does he do? He buys used ones from the University of Chicago.
Used jersey. I mean, hey, whatever works, right?
Exactly. But here's the kicker. Those jerseys were maroon. Fans started calling the color Cardinal Red, and boom, a nickname was born.
Wow, so the Arizona Cardinals were actually born in Chicago, rocking hand-me-downs. That's amazing.
I know, right? Talk about a budget-friendly origin story.
It really makes you appreciate how things were back then. They had to be resourceful.
Okay, from thrifty beginnings to something a bit more poetic, we're heading to Baltimore, home of the Ravens. What comes to mind when you think of Baltimore?
Baltimore. Let's see. Definitely some great seafood. Oh, and Edgar Allan Poe.
Touchdown. You got it. When the Browns moved to Baltimore in '96, they held a poll to choose a new name, and guess what won?
Ravens. I mean, it makes sense with Poe's famous poem and all.
Exactly. A perfect blend of literary history and that kind of mysterious dark vibe.
It fits the city perfectly.
Right, from dark and mysterious to something a bit more family-friendly. We're heading south to Carolina, where the Panthers prowl.
Oh, Carolina, beautiful place.
And you know what's cool about this name? It was chosen by a kid.
You're kidding?
Nope. Back in '95, the team president let his son pick the name A&D, the colors, and he went with Panthers, decked out in blue, black, and silver.
Wow, talk about pressure. What a cool story.
Makes you wonder what kind of team name we'd have come up with as kids.
Mine probably would have been something ridiculous like the Gummy Bear Warriors or something.
Haha, awesome. Okay, next up, we're tackling the Chicago Bears. This one might seem obvious, sharing a city with the Cubs.
Yeah, got to keep it animal themed, right?
Right, but it goes deeper than that. They were originally called the Staleys and played at Wrigley Field, just like the Cubs.
Wait, so they were already playing at Wrigley before they became the Bears?
Yep. George Halas, the owner, decided to keep that animal theme going. Smart move, huh?
Totally. It's all about branding.
He was way ahead of his time. All right, from Bears to Bengals. Cincinnati, you're up. And this name is all about honoring the past.
Ooh, I love those kinds of stories. Tell me more.
Paul Brown, the Bengals' first owner and coach, was a big fan of a previous Cincinnati team, also called the Bengals.
Ah, that's kind of sweet. Like a little tribute.
Exactly. He wanted to keep that legacy alive.
Respect for the OGs.
Speaking of OGs, let's head over to Cleveland, home of the Browns. And get this, they're named after their first coach, Paul Brown.
Makes sense.
But, and this is a big but, he actually wanted a different name,
No way. What did you want to call them?
the Cleveland Panthers. But someone else had the rights to Panthers in Cleveland. Talk about bad timing.
So Browns it was. It's kind of grown on me, though.
Same here.
Yeah.
All right, time for a trip to Dallas, home of the Cowboys, America's team.
Can't get more classic than the Cowboys.
But are you ready for this? They almost ended up as the Dallas Fears. Hold on, the Dallas Steers. Seriously.
Yep. Can you imagine?
Oh, man, I can't unsee that now. Like, how about them Spears? It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Thankfully, the GM put a stop to that one. They also considered Rangers, but that was too close to a local baseball team.
So after all that, they landed on Cowboys.
It was meant to be. From Cowboys to... Well, not so ferocious Lions. We're talking Detroit.
Ah, the Lions.
Yeah.
They've had their ups and downs.
Yeah.
Their name, though, pure ambition. The owner in 1934 wanted a name to rival the Detroit Tigers, their successful baseball team.
So he went with Lions because...
He said, and I quote, "The lion is the monarch of the jungle, and we hope to be the monarchs of the league."
Well, they're definitely monarchs of something.
Huh. Okay, from Lions to Packers. This was a bit more down to earth. Literally, the Green Bay Packers. They're named after a meatpacking company.
Seriously?
Seriously. The team founder worked at the Indian Packing Company and they sponsored the team. So boom, Packers.
That is wild. Makes those cheeseheads a little more literal, I
Right,
guess.
right. All right, we're heading south again. This time it's Jacksonville, home of the Jaguars. And this one's all about a zoo connection.
Okay, a zoo in Jacksonville. Jaguars. It's got to be Jaguars, right?
Bingo. They held a fan contest in the early 90s. And it just so happened that the Jacksonville Zoo had the oldest living jaguar in North America at the time.
That's kind of sweet. Like a little mascot inspiration.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of inspiration, let's talk Kansas City Chiefs. This one has ties to Native American history, but did you know?
What? Don't leave me hanging.
They almost ended up with a much less intimidating name.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Spill it.
The owner wanted to call them the Kansas City Mules.
Mules. Seriously?
Yep. He also considered Royals and Stars, but thankfully he went with Chiefs.
Phew. What a close call.
Okay, ready for some California sunshine? It's the Los Angeles Chargers.
I'm feeling energized already. I bet their name has something to do with that electric stadium atmosphere.
You got it. Back in 1960, the owner loved the energy of the Charge rally cry at the Coliseum. And so, the Chargers were born.
I love that. It's like capturing the roar of the crowd in a name.
Exactly. And they even kept the name when they moved to San Diego and then back to L.A.
Wow, it's like a little piece of that original LA energy stayed with them wherever they went. It really shows how a name can become so much more than just a word. It's like a thread that connects a team to its past, present, and future.
Okay, let's rewind a bit before we talk about the current Los Angeles Rams. We got to visit their ancestors, and it gets kind of confusing.
Confusing how?
So the Rams started in Cleveland in 36, then moved to L.A. in 46, then to St. Louis in 94, and back to L.A. again in 2016.
Wow, that's a lot of moving.
Yeah.
But how did they become the Rams in the first place?
Well, back in Cleveland, the team owner and GM were huge fans of the Fordham University Rams, college football.
Yeah, I know Fordham, so they just liked the name and decided to use it.
Pretty much. They admired their strength and thought, hey, that's a good name for us too.
It's funny how much influence college football had on the early NFL.
Totally. It's like they were building on that tradition.
Right.
Okay, now for a name that just screams its city. The Miami Dolphins.
Dolphins, yeah, it just fits, doesn't it? Sunshine, ocean, all that.
And get this, it was chosen through a fan contest back in '66. Almost 20,000 entries.
Wow, that's a lot of people with ideas. So out of all those, they went with Dolphins.
Yep. It perfectly captures that Miami vibe, right? Playful, smart, graceful.
Totally. It's like they knew exactly what they wanted to represent.
Okay, time to sail north to the land of Vikings. What do you think? Any guesses on how Minnesota got its name?
Vikings. It's got to be connected to Minnesota's Scandinavian heritage, right?
Right, again. Back in '61, the general manager wanted a name that reflected the state's history and people. Vikings were the perfect fit.
It's a name that just screams adventure and strength, like those Norse explorers conquering new lands.
Speaking of conquering, let's talk New England Patriots, those 6-time Super Bowl champs.
The Patriots. It's a name that's just, well, very American, isn't it? Like fighting for what you believe in.
Totally. And it all started back in 1960 when they were still in Boston. They held a fan contest, and Patriots won by a landslide.
Makes sense with all that Revolutionary War history in Boston.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even when they became the New England Patriots in '71, they kept that core identity.
It's like they're always fighting for something, like the underdogs battling the odds.
From Patriots to Saints. We're heading to New Orleans, and this one has a connection to a very special day.
Ooh, a special day in New Orleans. Mardi Gras.
Close, but not quite. It's All Saints Day. Back in '66, the announcement for the New Orleans franchise happened to fall on November 1st.
Wow, so it was like fate.
Right, and even the local newspapers named the team contest pointed toward Saints.
It's a name that just fits the city perfectly. The history, the culture, everything.
All right, Big Apple time. We're talking New York Giants. Any thoughts on this one?
Giants. New York. Is there a baseball connection, maybe?
You got it. Back in the 20s, baseball was huge. So when New York got its NFL team, the owner decided to borrow the name from the city's already famous baseball team.
Smart move. Like, hey, if you love the baseball Giants, you'll love the football Giants too.
Exactly. And from Giants, we soar over to the New York Jets. This name is all about embracing the future.
Jets! Speed, power, all that. I bet it has something to do with airplanes.
Ding, ding, ding.
Back in the 60s, they were still the Titans, playing in Shea Stadium, right by LaGuardia Airport.
So when the new owners came in, they thought, hey, let's rebrand and go with Jets.
Exactly. Perfect timing, too. The jet age was booming, and the name captured that feeling of progress and excitement.
It's like a name that looks ahead, embracing what's to come.
Okay, we're heading west to where the Oakland Raiders once ruled. And get this, they almost ended up being, señores.
Señores. Wait, really?
Yeah. It was chosen in a fan contest back in 1960. But thankfully, they realized it wasn't the right fit.
Phew, that was a close one.
Right. They went back to the runner-up names and chose Raiders.
Much better. It's got that rebellious spirit, that take-no-prisoners attitude. Perfect for the Raiders.
All right, time for some brotherly love. Philadelphia Eagles. This name is all about symbolism and resilience.
The eagle. Such a powerful image, right?
Yeah.
Strength, freedom.
And the Philadelphia Eagles. Their name is a direct nod to the bald eagle.
Makes sense. But was there a specific reason they chose it? Absolutely. The team was originally the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. But in '33, new owners wanted a fresh start and chose eagles to honor the Blue Eagle.
The Blue Eagle? I don't think I know that one.
It was the symbol of FDR's National Recovery Act, part of his New Deal to get the country out of the Great Depression.
Wow, so it was like a symbol of hope and bouncing back.
Exactly. Okay, next up, a city built on steel, Pittsburgh. What do you think their team's called?
Pittsburgh. Steel. It's got to be the Steelers, right?
Touchdown. You nailed it. Their name honors the city's industrial roots. They chose it in a Rename the Team contest in 1940.
And it's a name that's just stuck, you know. The Steelers and Pittsburgh, they're like one and the same.
From steel mills to gold mines, we're heading to San Francisco, home of the 49ers.
The 49ers. I'm sensing a gold rush connection here.
You got it. Their name honors those who rushed to California in 1849, hoping to strike it rich.
It's like a name that represents that spirit of taking risks, chasing dreams.
And from gold seeking, we set sail for Pirates, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Buccaneers. Yeah, it just screams pirates, doesn't it? All that adventure and treasure.
Their name is a nod to those swashbuckling pirates who roamed Florida's coast. Adds a little spice to the NFL, right?
Definitely. Makes them seem a bit more daring.
All right, one last stop before our final destination. Tennessee Titans. But before they were Titans, they had a name that was a bit oily.
Oily. The Tennessee Oilers, maybe? But that doesn't really fit Tennessee, does it?
Nope. They actually started in Houston, where oil was king. But when they moved to Tennessee in '97, they knew they needed a new name.
Makes sense. So how'd they end up with Titans?
They held a statewide contest, and Titans won. It represents strength, leadership, all those larger-than-life qualities.
So like those powerful figures from Greek mythology?
Exactly.
Oh.
And finally, our last stop, Washington, D.C., home of the Washington Commanders. This one's got a complex backstory.
Yeah, the Commanders. I know there was a lot of talk about their old name.
Right. They were originally the Boston Braves, but in '33, the new owner renamed them to honor the coach, who claimed Sioux heritage.
So it was meant to be a tribute to Native American culture.
Yeah. But over time, it became clear that the name was offensive and disrespectful.
And after years of protests, they finally changed it in 2020.
Yep. They played as the Washington football team for a while as they searched for a new name.
And in 2022, they became the Commanders.
It was a big decision, met with some mixed reactions, but ultimately a step towards a more sensitive and inclusive approach.
It's a reminder that team names aren't just words. They carry a lot of weight and meaning.
Exactly.
Entry for the Atlanta Falcons. You know who came up with that?
Hit me with it.
A school teacher.
No way.
Yes, Julia Elliott. She's the one who gave us the Atlanta Falcons.
No, that is a legacy.
Right. And she didn't just pick it randomly. She specifically pointed out the Falcons' qualities. You know, courage, speed, determination, all the things you'd want your football team to embody.
Perfect match then. And check this out. Even the Falcons logo has a cool detail hidden in plain sight.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
The Falcon itself actually forms the letter F. Subtle but clever.
Very clever. It's like a visual echo of the name. And you see this trend with a lot of early NFL teams, you know, this desire to project strength and power through their names.
Okay, so speaking of strength and power, what about the Buffalo Bills? Their name's all about tapping into that Wild West energy, right?
100%. You think Buffalo Bills, you got to think about Buffalo Bill Cody, the legendary Wild West showman.
Big guy with the big hat and the whole shebang.
That's him. The team's name is a direct nod to that legacy. It's a brilliant way to connect the team to that sense of adventure and frontier spirit, which was and still is a big part of the region's identity.
So basically, when I see that charging buffalo on their helmets,
Yep.
I'm looking at a little piece of Wild West history.
You got it.
That's pretty awesome.
And it's not just the Bills. Think about the Denver Broncos, another name that just screams Wild West.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you can picture those wild horses roaming free in the Rocky Mountains.
Exactly. And given Denver's location and its own Wild West history, it's a name that makes perfect sense. It shows how even something as simple as a team name can tell you a lot about a city and what it values.
Okay, but here's where things get really interesting to me. The Indianapolis Colts, didn't their name actually originate somewhere else?
You're sharp. You're right. The Colts were originally a Baltimore team.
See, I knew it.
And their name was chosen to honor Maryland's long and rich history of horse breeding and racing.
Wow, I had no idea. That completely changes how I see the team. But why Colts specifically?
Well, think about what a colt is. It's a young horse full of energy and potential.
Right.
All those qualities you associate with a fresh, up-and-coming team. And even though they moved to Indianapolis, that name stuck with them.
It makes you realize that a name can really carry the weight of a team's history. It's like a link to their origins, no matter where they end up.
Absolutely. It reminds us that a team's name might not always perfectly reflect their current location, but it still tells us something about where they came from.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about those Seattle Seahawks. Another team named through a fan contest, but this one got a whopping 20,000 entries. I can't even imagine trying to sift through all of those.
I know, right? Talk about a tough job. But out of that mountain of suggestions, Seahawks emerged as the winner.
Now, there's a nature connection here, right?
Yeah, there is. This is where it gets a little unexpected. Seahawk is actually another name for an osprey.
Wait, an osprey?
Yeah.
Really? I'm not sure I see the connection to football there. Maybe they just liked how Seahawks sounded.
Well, ospreys are known for their strength and agility, which are pretty desirable traits in football, don't you think? Plus, they're a very common sight along the Pacific Northwest coastline. It was
History and meaning behind those names, huh?
It really makes you appreciate how much thought goes into those decisions. Each name tells a story about the team's history, its values, its connection to the city, and its fans. So it makes you wonder, if you had the chance to name a brand new NFL team today, what name would you pick? What story would you want to tell? What regional tie or symbolic meaning would you want to capture?
Now, that's a question worth pondering.
It really is. Because in the end, it's more than just a name on a jersey, right? It's a symbol, it's an identity, it's a whole lot of history wrapped up in just a few words.
And that's a wrap for our deep dive into the fascinating world of NFL team names.
Until next time.